Hello again, my lovelies. In my last video, you briefly saw me unpack a big piece of fabric, and I very briefly mentioned that it had a thread count of 8 and it was finely woven. Now I thought this could be a good time to show you some different thread counts, to show you 2 different types of linen or material to stitch on, and perhaps do a little bit of stitching with different amounts of strands. Now, to paraphrase Norway's most beloved TV chef, I've cheated a little bit, so I've already measured out 1 centimetre between those 2 pins. Let's see, I've done it here, I've done it here. Now this one oh dear, it's gone off. I've also done it here. There's 1 centimetre between those 2, and it's 1 inch here. And yeah, you get the gist here. So in order to do a thread count, what you really should have is some needles and a measuring tape. And this one is a reversible one. I've got centimeters and inches on the reverse here. Could be handy to have something as simple as pen and paper if you want to make some notes. So I have just a pin here, pretty little one. Now to double check, yes, I'm fairly certain I did a full centimetre. Let's do a quick check. So yes, we're still on 1 centimetre here. So put that one away and do some counting. Not count Sesame Street counting, just regular counting here. So off we go, and we make it to be, see how we'll count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So that makes a linen of 10 count, because this is even weave, it's linen, pure linen. So it's, you see, it's slightly uneven threads here and there, but that's just the way linen is. But it's woven evenly. It's not 2 threads over 1 or any patterns or anything. It's just plain, simple, even weave. Now, this is a piece of scrap fabric I got from my mother-in-law, so it's pre-loved, pre-used. I'm just going to put that away here. Now for our next piece, this is also linen. You can already see that it is a little bit different. It appears to be slightly more coarse. Of course, the colour is different. So my needle again, let's do some counting. I'm guessing this is a 12 count. And yes, we have 12 on each centimetre, so this is a 12-10. Some fabric stores or craft stores, they will label their fabrics in thread counts. So this could be labelled as a 12-10, as in 12 threads per 10 millimeters. But if you're uncertain or your store doesn't really measure it out this way, ask them, because you don't want to come home with the wrong sized fabric. I've had that happen to me previously, and it can be rather interesting if you have something special planned out. This is a double cheat, because I know this thread count because this is one of my old leftovers which I bought for a previous project, so I know this thread count. This is a 14, so it's a 14-10 because it's 14 threads per centimetre. I'm going to hold this up next to the first one, which was a 10, and I don't need to point out the differences here. This one is very finely woven in comparison to the one on the left. So this one away as well. So that was linen, even weave, 10, 12 and 14 count. I've seen these go as low as 8. I've also seen them as high as 18. Now 18 count is very fine. I'm not going to say it's unstitchable, but for a beginner I do recommend that you use something in the 10, 12, maybe 14 range, because it is a challenge to stitch when it's very high thread count, and it will save you loads of hassle and frustration. Now, this is something called Ida. You've seen me stitch on this previously. This is my old, I use this for my first and second video. This is just for showing, and it's just a piece of fabric I use for testing. So it's not designated for anything. Now this is, I cut off a piece and I haven't bothered to do anything with the edges, so it will fray like this. But I'm just going to use it for show and tell really, so it doesn't really matter. Now this is very finely woven, as you can see. It's also something called Ida, and you can see it's basically made up out of 2 threads over 2 threads. Now linen even weave, that was 1 over and 1 under. Now here you can see it's kind of hard to show you. I think this will help. See, every little crosshair, there's 2 threads, 2 threads, and this is Ida. I counted this out on the video, but look again, this is Ida, so we count not the threads but the holes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Because I misplaced the first needle a little bit, so, and I did count on the previous video. If you see it on inches, also I did a count on the first video, sorry, previous video, and so it's a 20-ish count. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to count out if you measure 1 centimeter and you don't really hit a proper thread. So then you can probably do, or probably what you could do, measure out 2 centimeters and basically how many counts you have on 2 centimeters and divide by 2. That should be fairly easy. So this is very finely woven. Now this is my Ida that I bought previously, and this is a 5.4. You can see I have, back to my centimeters again. You see here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit. I know this to be a 5.4 because I bought 2 pieces of fabric, sorry, and this is what it came out of the box. So here you've got 5.4 threads per centimeter, and it's 100% cotton, and it's about 40, well it's not about, it is 43 by 50 centimeters, so it's a nice big piece. Very versatile, and it didn't set me back much. I can't exactly remember what I paid because I bought quite a lot of stuff when I was in there last. I live slightly rural, so whenever I go to town I tend to do a shopping spree. So this is the 5.4. I've also brought out something called needlepoint fabric or canvas. It's very rigid. Listen to this. It's really stiff, it's not pliable. This is very usable because you can use it for decorative rugs. I've seen people make tiny little bags and pouches out of it, pillowcases for decorative pillows and everything. Now see, I'll put down a centimeter again, and we're down to, I make this to be about 3.5 squares. So this is technically an Ida fabric because you see you've got the 2 threads intersecting here, and this is also an Ida. So in comparison they are very different and very similar because they're both in the same family of weaves. Now I'm going to put this one away as well. I'm going to take out my 10 fabric. This. There we go. So this was my size 10. I'm going to just go in and remove the needles because I don't want any more holes in me. It's enough that I have a cat that decided that my arm was a suitable toy this morning. So, right, I've been diving into my leftover box of DMC skeins. I've dug out this 321, which is a proper red, and I've shown you this before, but if I'm going to tease out here, you can see it's made up of 6 individual strands all twisted together in an 8-meter scale here, or 8.7 yards if you're going to do this in old money. So I've already put down some on my pincushion here, which you've been playing with. Fortunately, no needles on it then. So I've just put down one thread here. There's one strand of the 6 threaded. Here we have 2 strands, 3 strands, 4, 5, and surprisingly 6 strands on the last one. So let's see what happens when we use different amounts to stitch with on this 10 count here. I'm just gonna, let's see, this is just one strand, so we can't do our beloved loop start. So what I'd like to do then is I have a nice little tail here. I'm just going to hold it in place with my finger. There we go. And you see, I normally stitch 1, 2, and 1, 2. So that's 2 over 2. I take 2 strands with me every time. And that little tail that we had on the back, see here, I'm just going to put it nice and secure under what I'm stitching. So I'm just going to do some quick stitching here, and I'm going to try to do all the same. Right, I'm sorry about all that juddering and not paying properly attention to the spacing between the boxes, and also the fact that the last one was quite manky. I'm going to talk you all through this really quickly. So on the first square here, it was just one thread. You can see the fabric shining through, and it's a bit, it doesn't give us good coverage. Now the second, that's 2 strands here. You see better coverage. It's still some fabric showing through. Now that will probably even out with some wear and tear, and when you do it, give it a quick rinse or something. Now here we've used 3 strands, and you can see it's very full. 4 strands, and it's becoming bulky and hard to stitch with, and that was very much the case with strands 5 and 6. Now on the 6th I actually gave up. I did say I was going to do a 4x4 square, but as you can see it's bulky, it's hard to get the needle and thread through the fabric, and literally it's bulky. You can see how much these stitches are raised from the fabric compared to the previous ones. So here we go. That was just a very quick show and tell on what happens when you use different amounts of strands. So bear with me. I have one more thing to show you. So that's going to come in a jiffy. Right, sorry about that, and I do apologize again for all that jolting and whatnot and mistakes I made when I was doing those different stitches here, because I was sitting at a really awkward angle. So now I've just fished up this piece here. Now this was the needlepoint canvas, and I have been borrowing a caliper here, and it's a digital one, so we're going to have a little bit of fun with some tools now. So on this needlepoint canvas I've done the same. I've done with 2 strands of the DMC I was using on this piece. I've stitched 4x4 crosses. So let's see if we can't switch this one on. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Or was it the opposite if you'd watched the IT crowd? So let's do a quick measurement and see 4x4 stitches. How are we doing size wise? And this is something a caliper normally doesn't do, is measuring stitches. Can you see this? It's 18.97 millimeters, or in inches, well, 0.746 inches across there approximately, and it is squared, so I don't really need. So I'm going to put it back to centimeters. So it was just shy of 2 centimeters here. 18 point, well, make that 19 millimeters there. And this was our 10 thread count. So let's do, when we did 2 strands, I'm going to narrow it down, so there we go, just about touching, and you see here we're down to 5.54 millimeters, and in inches 0.297. So there you have it. It's quite a difference. And then for our 14 count, it's even smaller. Mind you, they're all stitched same strands with same amount of strands, everything. Only difference is the thread count. And here we're down to 5.95 millimeters, or just over half a centimeter. And in inches, it's 0.234 inches. So that really shows you what the different thread count does for your stitching. Same amount of stitches, same yarn, same amount of individual strands, but a really different result. So I'm going to put them all together here. this is the result. Only different is thread count. So I reckon that's all for today, everyone. Stay safe, have fun. Questions or comments, drop them in the section below. And, you know, today's mostly apples is mostly grain and 43 herbs and spices. So chin chin, everyone. Have fun.